Alright, today we're talking about dividing decimals. And there's a couple of different things that we need to talk about first. And the first part is the parts to a division problem. Okay, so we're going to do something really basic, like 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so the number 5 here is the quotient. Okay, the number 10 in this case is the dividend, the number that is being divided, and the number 2 in this case is the divisor. Okay, the number that is doing the dividing is going into the other number. Okay, the other thing that we need to talk about is how 10 divided by 2 is the same as 100 divided by 20. Okay, I want you to think about that. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 5 20s go into 100. Okay, so if you multiply the dividend and the divisor by 10, you get the same quotient. Okay, we're going to use that in a moment. Okay, when you're dividing by decimals, there are two situations. The first situation is decimal in the dividend. Okay, decimal in the dividend. Okay, let's in a little bit. Okay, so your example here would be 2 and 456 thousandths, 2 and 456 thousandths divided by 2. Okay, when the decimal is in the dividend, but your divisor is a whole number, all you have to do is bring the decimal up. Okay, so bring and what do we mean by that? Well, it's just right here. The decimal was here, and now we just brought it up. Okay, so that the quotient will have a decimal in the same place that the dividend had a decimal. Okay, and then you just divide like you normally would. Okay, and then so bring up the decimal and then just divide. This is a very, very light color. I think I'm going to have to go with something else. Just divide. Okay, so does 2 go into 2? Yes, it goes into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, 2 minus 2 is 0, and then the 4 comes down. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 4, 0. 5 comes down. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. 6 drops down. 2 goes into 16 8 times. So 2 and 456 thousandths divided by 2 is 1 and 228 thousandths. Okay, so that is one example. Okay, now we're going to talk about what happens when the decimal is in the divisor. Okay, and for this example, I'm going to do 2/10 divided into, we'll do 24. Okay, so remember that 10 divided by 2 and 100 divided by 20 gave the same quotient. So when there's a divisor with a decimal, the first thing you have to do is move the decimal place over. You have to multiply by a multiple of 10, okay? And some people have a little thing that they remind themselves. They said decimal on the side, and then what do you have to do? You have to slide. That means move the decimal over, okay? So what does this look like on our number? I'm going to move the decimal over, okay, so that now I'm dividing by a whole number, okay? So now I'm dividing by 2. But I can't just move the decimal here and not move the decimal here. So this one had a decimal at the end that we didn't write because we didn't have to, and I move it over, okay? So now the decimal's here, okay? And what I'm actually doing is 240 divided by 2. So what I really just did was multiplied both the divisor and the dividend by 10. 2/10 times 10 is 2. 24 times 10 is 240. Okay? And then my answer, my quotient, will have a decimal above where the decimal was in the dividend. Okay? So when you're sliding the decimal, okay, so the first thing you're going to do is slide the decimal. Okay? But I think it's important to know that when we say slide, we're using kind of a, that's not really what you're doing. What you're really doing is multiplying by a power of 10. So you can multiply by 10 if you need to move the decimal one place. You're multiplying by 100 if you need to move it 2 places. You're multiplying it by 1,000 if you're moving it 3 places. So that's what I mean by a power of 10. So slide the decimal in the divisor. Divisor. Okay. And then bring the decimal up, bring the dividend decimal up, okay, bring the dividend decimal up, and then just divide. And I kind of ran out of room, so I'm going to just not worry about it, okay? So now I do the math. 2 goes into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 0, drop down to 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 equals 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. Drop down to 0. Okay. So my answer is 120. 24 divided by 2/10 is 120.